A former porn actor caught in a deadly father-son love triangle.
I'm not going to stop fighting to prove my innocence.
The Love Triangle beheading trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Hey everybody, Judge Lauren Lake here. Listen, I need you to head on over to YouTube weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Why? Because your favorite judge, I'm one of the new co-hosts of Truth Talks Season 2. And guess what? We're live every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, only at Truth Talks-Live. I'll see you there.
Let's go. Truth Talks is the fastest growing show about pop culture, and now we're exclusively on our own channel.
Go ahead, say it, man.
Attention! We're back.
You gotta stop letting this slide.
Bigger and stronger than ever.
I mean, I just have questions.
Season 2 is reloading May 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
What's up?
With new hosts.
Let me tell you what damn time it is.
And big celebrity surprises.
Kiss my behind is Oprah Winfrey.
Subscribe today at Truth Talks Live.
Give black people what they need, and we'll show them for you.
And don't miss out on all the upcoming viral moments.
Simulcasting weeknights at 8 p.m. on Roland Martin Unfiltered and Black Star Network and Truth Talks Live.
I'll see you there.
What's up, Truth fam? It's your girl, Cheyenne. And yes, season 2 of Truth Talks is here, and we are turning up even higher.
Yo, it's your man, Torre, the newest co-host on the set, and I'm bringing heart, heat, and hard truth every night.
And we are keeping it all the way fire. Ain't no filters, ain't no fluff, just straight facts. Y'all know how we do.
So stop scrolling and pull up to our YouTube at Truth Talks-Live. Like, subscribe, and smash that bell.
And after you do that, join us because we go live weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on all the coasts, wherever you are. From culture to controversy, we say what everyone else is scared to say.
We talk truth. Season 2 of Truth Talks. Let's go. Because this time, we ain't asking. We're taking the mic.
This is a Southern Sin. Breaking news special. Be sure to like and subscribe now.
They told you these stories didn't exist. We're here to prove they do. Real footage, real crimes. No filter. For more true crime from the South, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel at Southern Sin. You can also support more episodes by becoming a member of the Southern Sin channel, where you'll get early, exclusive access to crimes that mainstream media won't show you. Tune in for all new episodes every True Crime Tuesday at 9 p.m.
A former porn actor caught in a deadly father-son love triangle.
I'm not going to stop fighting to prove my innocence.
The Love Triangle beheading trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Yeah. His son?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So Deviere, his son, and you are now married. How long have you been there?
Almost 2 years.
You were charged with Monica Cementilli. Is that correct?
Yes.
You see her seated over there?
I do. I wanted her to have fun with everything, not just sexually, just everything. I murdered him because I wanted her.
More twisted angles in the love triangle beheading trial. Defendant Devyn Michaels shockingly is linked to killer Robert Baker, the lover of Monica Cementilli. You remember him. The former porn stars were once married, and we're going to hear more of the defendant's police interview as we look ahead to what we can expect today in court. Plus, 4 Pepperdine sorority sisters killed. Frazier Michael Boom, charged with murder and vehicular homicide. He is in court today with his well-known defense attorney, Alan Jackson. We'll talk about that. Also this hour, the teacher who was shot by her 6-year-old student awarded $10 million. Now, we're looking forward to the assistant principal's criminal cases. All next, right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant this week. There's a lot going on this week in courtrooms across the country. We have that horrific case out of California, a young man facing trial for killing those 4 Pepperdine University students. He'll be in court today along with his high-profile Karen Reed defense attorney, Alan Jackson. It is a very emotional case. We'll talk about that in a bit. Plus that wacky case in Las Vegas with the former porn star accused of decapitating her boyfriend. We'll get into her connection with former porn star Robert Baker, who was from the Monica Cementilli trial. A big day. We're kicking it off. Let's do so as we always do with a look at the daily docket.
On July 2nd of 2016, is that a date that sticks out in your memory?
Yes.
Why?
Lost my baby.
Did defendant Darren Thrillkill remain a parent-like figure in Martin's life on that date?
Yes.
In Colorado, the father figure murder trial for defendant Darren Thrillkill resumes at 11 a.m. Eastern. He's accused of murdering his girlfriend's 6-year-old son, Martin. In Iowa, the state's case continues in the Metal Pipe Massacre trial for defendant Luke Truesdale. He's accused of attacking and killing 4 people with a metal pipe. And in Nevada, testimony resumes in the love triangle beheading trial for defendant Devyn Michaels. That is where we begin this hour. This is such a weird case. They begin at noon Eastern today with testimony. The former porn star accused of bludgeoning and beheading her ex-boyfriend to death. Johnathan Willette, that guy's name. It's a bizarre love triangle. She's married to the victim's son. Deviere's his name. He's from a previous marriage, as you might anticipate. The defense says that Deviere, the boy, he's the killer. He testified, denied murdering his dad or having anything to do with it. On Friday, the jury got to hear a bit of the defendant in her own words in a police interview. Take a listen.
So what was your reason for getting married to Deviere?
Because legally, as my spouse, he has more rights and access to things than someone just as a random.
So like pick up prescriptions?
He can do anything as my spouse. He actually, I had to go into the hospital on the ambulance, and he was the one that took care of all of that.
Okay. So are you guys like intimate together? No. Does he sleep in your room?
Sometimes, like he'll fall asleep when we watch TV, but he usually sleeps on the couch.
He was gonna have to move out?
Deviere was not happy about it, and the idea was John was not supposed to be moving in, but because of the situation going on with his mom, Andrea, he didn't really have anywhere to go. So that's why he was coming this way. And I was not expecting him to do that this fast.
All right, so the dad moves in. They have 2 kids, by the way. The ex-porn star and the decedent have 2 children. She's now married to his son. He moves in, is going to move in because he's got nowhere to go, and then he ends up dead, and his head is gone, and she's on trial, and the defense says the boy did it. Wow, what a wacky case. Let's bring in criminal defense attorneys Mario Gallucci and civil attorney Ben Chu. Good morning, gentlemen. Good Monday morning to you. What's your overall take, Mario, on this one? It's convoluted. You have a defense basically saying, hey, jury, that's the guy that did it. It's the boy. Your thoughts?
They're just like, wow, wow, wow. This case is made for TV. You have a beheaded person with a clean beheading, which is very unusual for a woman to be able to accomplish. I do not believe we've found the head yet. There was basically no blood there. So her defense is going to be that our new husband, the son of the father, which is odd to begin with, did this in probably a jealous rage, and that he got rid of the head. And how could she possibly have accomplished beheading this individual, getting rid of a head, cleaning up a crime scene, and doing everything it takes to clean up a circumstantial evidence type case? But on the other hand, she's already pled guilty at one point and withdrew a plea. And during that, she gave specific testimony about why she was pleading guilty, which the prosecution would probably use against her if she was to take the stand. And even if she didn't take the stand, they would probably try to get that out on their direct case. So it's a very convoluted fact pattern, and it could go either way here. The defense has a lot of reasonable doubt, and the prosecution's got a lot of evidence.
Yeah, Ben, the motive, you would think that this guy moving into the apartment with the daughters would have to be greenlit by her, right? It's not like he just showed up one day with his U-Haul trailer and was barging in, so she chopped his head off. And the defense has a great story, but to Mario's point, she sort of admitted to it by that early plea, which she recanted. What do you think stands out here?
Ted, I agree with Mario's analysis. I think there is plenty of fodder for reasonable doubt. On the other hand, they're not mutually exclusive. In other words, the jury could find her guilty and also find that the son or someone else was involved. So it's not a mutually exclusive scenario here, but it is complicated, and it's one that may give rise to a finding of reasonable doubt by one or more of the jurors.
Yeah, and complication usually helps the defense. Here's a little cross-examination of the son. They're asking, hey, did you tell your dad that you were with his girlfriend? Take a listen.
Did you ever tell your dad that you had been having a sexual relationship with the father of his other children? The mother. The mother. Jesus, I said father.
No, sir.
I apologize. Knowing your dad as you did, if he had known you were having a sexual relationship with his mother of his children, is he the type of guy that would have just said nothing and let it go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you never tell him. I don't want to ask an obvious question, but why not?
I couldn't build up the courage to do it.
Mario, the having him testify does give the jurors opportunity to analyze. Sometimes a defense is the boogeyman. This guy did it, but they never see that person that's accused. This is unique. They get to sort of weigh it, and he didn't exactly knock it out of the park on the witness stand.
So he was calm, but he's basically in an intimate relationship with his father's wife. So, I mean, right away, there's credibility issues right off the bat. I mean, if I'm the defense attorney in this, I'm attacking. This is an attack. So, he's in an intimate relationship with his father's wife, who he later develops a relationship with and eventually marries. And then his father's moving back into the house, and then all of a sudden he gets beheaded. So there's a lot of credibility issues here. This is a great case for a defense attorney. Really is. There's plenty of reasonable doubt, plenty of attack modes. We'd love to have this case.
Yeah, and Ben, you know, the medical examiner didn't establish how exactly he was killed because there's no head. That's a big part of the equation here. But it's clean, to Mario's point. Power tools, the boy had access to it. There does seem to be some reasonable doubt here that this former porn star could have pulled it off.
Yeah, Ted, I agree. It goes back to Mario's opening point that it doesn't, not to engage in, you know, sexist stereotype, but it does seem unlikely that she would be capable of beheading in the way that was done here. So I do think that creates some reasonable doubt.
Yeah, it's odd that a gruesome thing like a decapitation can somehow weirdly help a defendant, because people can't get their head around it. You know, you can't think about a woman doing that. It's just like, really? But we'll see when we get back. We're going to take a break here. We're going to talk about this link now. You have the defendant is a former porn star. Well, we had another former porn star on court TV recently. He went down in flames. Remember this guy? Robert Baker.
You were charged with Monica Cementilli. Is that correct?
Yes.
You see her seated over there?
I do. I wanted her to have fun with everything, not just sexually, just everything. I murdered him because I wanted her.
Plus, defendant Frazier Bohm back in court today. He's accused of crashing his car into 4 sorority sisters. He's hired a familiar face, defense attorney Alan Jackson.
There are many, many defendants in jail right now who would love me to reduce their bail so they can hire Alan Jackson or other private counsel. That's not the way it works.
This week. Get your day started with true crime and trial drama. Each morning, we'll take you inside the country's biggest cases before we take you inside the courtroom.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Sunday nights on Court TV. Join us for a night of food, friends, and our favorite legal dramas. It's Order in the Court. And this week, we're binge watching Bull. Sundays on Court TV.
The connection of the love triangle beheading trial to another fatal attraction is what is trending in true crime this morning. Defendant Devyn Michaels is seen here hugging Johnathan Willette. She would eventually marry Jonathan's son, Deviere. He's the guy in the white T-shirt. So here's the breakdown. Johnathan Willette had a relationship with a woman that resulted in a son, Deviere Willette. Johnathan breaks from that woman, Deviere's mother, and begins a relationship with Devyn Michaels, who is the defendant here and also a former porn star. Johnathan and Devyn have 2 daughters. They were never married. Johnathan gets full custody. You read into that however you want, of these 2 kids. Johnathan then says, hey, I want to move in with the kids. This is around the time he was murdered. Now, at some point before Johnathan was killed, Devyn, his boy, married the defendant. Married out of convenience, they said, but they were also, they had a romantic relationship. That came out in trial. But there's actually even more. The defendant, Michaels, was also known as Tracy Nicole Tavares at one point during her porn time. And according to her attorney, she was once married to Robert Baker. Robert Baker. Who's Robert Baker? Well, Monica Cementilli. Remember that name out in California? She was married to Robert Baker, or was with him, and he ended up going down for murder of Monica Cementilli's husband. Here's Baker being questioned about his previous marriages during Monica's trial.
When did you first get married?
The first time?
Yes.
The very first time.
Very first time.
Back in 82.
Okay, you were still in the armed services?
Yes.
And you mind telling us the name of the person you married?
I'd rather not.
Okay. How long were you married to her?
4 years.
Okay. And who was your second wife?
I'd rather not mention her name either.
Pardon?
I said I don't want to mention her name either.
I didn't say much about Devyn, a.k.a. Tracy, but that's her name. They were married. Similarities between the two, hard to ignore. So we're asking the question, what lessons were learned from Devyn Michaels' past relationship with Baker, if any? Let's bring in our guest here to discuss. Psychotherapist and CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey, and parenting and family relation expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Ladies, welcome. This is so weird. It gets weirder every day. This case is bizarre. What do you make of the defendant being married to Robert Baker, who we got to know during the Cementelli case, who was, he got up there and says he murdered for love. And now here she is, also in this porn industry, with the background accused of murder. It is bizarre. Dr. Janie, you first. Overall thoughts?
Well, Ted, I mean, this is extraordinary rare, right? And we can say it's deeply concerning. But we also know the statistical probability of being intimately involved with two people who murder their spouses is very small, Ted. I mean, unless there's a pattern at play. And that's where I would lean to when we think about is Robert Baker a victim of circumstances? I would probably lean on maybe not so much, right? So working with a lot of toxic couples, I lean on, is there a pattern? So him being the common denominator of these two marriages, you know, I would lean on perhaps was he the enabler? Did he manipulate? Did he participate in these toxic dynamics? And what was his influence given the circumstances? And then we know his testimony previously gave him immunity. So now he's married to another woman on trial for murder. That's a pattern, Ted, that we just can't ignore.
Dr. Sue.
I agree with Dr. Jamie. Although I think there is a pattern here of toxic relationships. And I think that maybe who she was married to before could have taught her some things along the way in terms of, you know, when you're upset, what you do. He doesn't seem like he's a person that is on the up and up. And it seems to me that the relationships here are just extremely toxic all around, and that possibly she wanted to get rid of the first husband so she could have a life with the son. I mean, that in itself is toxic.
Why would she allow him to move in the first place? I mean, the one thing I can't get my head around is he shows up with the kids, her kids, that he has custody of. And then now, is it from a state standpoint, wouldn't you think, Dr. Lacey, that she's going to say yes or no to this dude moving in with these two kids? She's thought it through. Why is that triggering? How's she going to now freak out and kill him and chop his head off when you would have to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that she would have to have said, yes, you can move in, correct?
Well, that would be my assumption, Ted. You know, I think the ideal and the thought of something, especially if it involves her kids and the circumstances around her not having custody, probably could have been a motivating factor. But the reality of when he probably moved in was probably a whole different ball game. And depending on her mindset, obviously we're seeing the outcome of that, probably wasn't anticipating whatever was happening inside that home, inside that relationship. So I lean on to probably the ideal and the thought, and perhaps, you know, the assumption that maybe having her kids there with not having lost custody, and then the reality of him actually being there and the reality of the circumstances of their dynamics probably wasn't what she anticipated. Perhaps she didn't have the power and the control that she thought she would have had.
Good point. All right, let's talk more about Robert Baker and his questionable past behavior, which was brought up during Monica Cementelli's murder trial. Many of us remember this moment when Baker was questioned about a conviction involving a minor.
You said you caught a case, right? What kind of case?
It was a lewd and lascivious act with a minor.
One?
It was one person.
One count?
I don't know the counts. I don't know how they got the counts. I just went along with the deal.
Who's Narlin Lopez?
Wow, you're gonna put her name out there like that, huh?
No, you did that by getting up on the stand.
I'm done with this, man. I'm done with this. I'm not trying to bring her up in this.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to bring. She's a victim in this.
Sir, just have a seat.
Right there. Trustee Counsel.
I'm not talking about that case anymore. That has nothing to do with this one. So, I'm done, man. I'm done.
Information this can be inquired. Please answer the question.
I'm not answering any questions regarding that case. It has nothing to do with this one.
Yeah, that was quite the moment there. All right, let's ask this question. You're in the porn industry. Porn is a whole thing, and there's a whole thing called porn trauma. Do you think that factors in here, Dr. Sue, that for both of these people that it may sound like it's no big deal, but that industry is pretty rough mentally?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors all the time in relationships. And I think that's one of the things that you're seeing here. What he's saying is that he wants to protect names, but here he is up on the stand being questioned in a case where he could have had some involvement. I think any kind of trauma can cause people to do serious things that they wouldn't do otherwise. And I think the porn industry is another area of this that can give you a lot of symptoms of maybe post-traumatic stress disorder and other things, because you don't know what's going on through their heads as they are immersed into this fantasy world and other kinds of acts that are going on. And I wonder if she was living still in that kind of world in her mind in a fantasy, and it contributed to what has happened here.
Dr. Lacey, is porn trauma a real thing?
I think what we see, Ted, there's something called hybristophilia, right? So that's where people can get attracted to dangerous, chaotic, or forbidden relationships. But what I see happens in the porn industry, or some of the women that we work with that were in the industry, is that you become, you learn to separate yourself. You learn to become, emotionally cut off, and you learn to look at people as objects and transactions. And that does a number on people. So you can't be in this industry and not be affected in how you're going to relate and how you're going to have relationships, because you can't hold space where you are looking at people as objects and transactions and almost dehumanizing them in order to participate in this industry and then have a life where you're going to have healthy relationships. We hardly see that exist, Ted.
That makes sense. And so could you then connect, Dr. Sue, Robert Baker having no problem going and brutally killing Monica's husband to get to her, and he said that on the stand. That's why I did it. He admitted that he did it because he was in love. And then by the same fact, the defendant in this case, she can't stand the fact that now he's back and he's the same guy that was there. And then does that maybe ring true, Dr. Sue, that this type of trauma where you dehumanize and it is all transactional could have been a factor if indeed she is guilty?
I think it definitely can be a factor here. I mean, we're making assumptions of what happened. I think that she definitely had help in whatever happened here. She is the one that did it. Beheading somebody, by the way, is a crime of passion. And I think, that happens in times when there's so much family conflict going on. That's what seems to have happened here. I'm not sure she's the one that did this, or I'm thinking it's the son that she's married to is the one that did it. I don't know what she learned from Miss Robert, but it could be that she learned how to be aggressive and violent, and we're making a lot of assumptions here. This is all up in the air for speculation, but I guess we'll see in the end what is decided here.
Yeah, tough job for this jury. Ladies, thank you. An interesting, weird morning conversation to have. Hey, that's Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Still ahead, spotlighting the sorority sisters murder case is a really difficult one. The defendant here, Frazier Baum, he's going to be in court today. We'll talk about what we can expect. Plus, looking ahead to Dr. Ebony Parker's criminal trial in the first grader shoots teacher case. Remember, she lost the civil end of this, but now she's facing criminal charges. An attorney for some of the students will join us live. Stay with us. In the spotlight this morning, the young man accused of killing 4 Pepperdine students in a high-speed collision is expected back in court today, and we could hear some witness testimony. Frazier Michael Bohm is charged with murder and vehicular manslaughter for allegedly speeding when he crashed into 3 parked vehicles on California's Pacific Coast Highway, killing 4 sorority sisters. The stretch of roadway is known as Dead Man's Curve. Bohm's lawyer, Alan Jackson, well known for representing Karen Reed, told the judge basically that he needed his client's bond, which is at $4 million right now. They needed it lowered. Take a listen to what the judge said.
There are many, many defendants sitting in the county jail right now who would love me to reduce their bail so they can hire Alan Jackson or other private counsel, but that's not the way it works. If Mr. Bohm cannot afford Mr. Jackson's services, he is free to find other private counsel, or he can request the appointment of the public defender if he qualifies for their services, which, despite being free, is oftentimes excellent.
So Bohm remains free on the $4 million. Today, we could hear from a mystery witness subpoenaed by the defense. You got Alan Jackson in the mix here, and you never know what to expect. This is just pre-trial. Here to discuss, criminal defense attorney Mario Gallucci's back, along with civil attorney Ben Chu. Ben, do you first hear you've got a high-powered attorney like you two guys walking into a courtroom? It makes a difference, and this is a young man, no booze. He's not, intoxicated. He stays, he doesn't flee, but he's going 100 miles an hour at one point at a 45 on PCH. Overall thoughts of the case?
Ted, I think this, obviously the consequences of Bohm's alleged conduct are just awful. 4 beautiful young girls have been killed. I think it is somewhat ameliorating that, as you point out, there's no alcohol, but the conduct to drive over 100 miles an hour in a 45 mile per hour zone, I think it's so egregious. I'm not sure the jury is going to have a whole lot of sympathy for him.
Mario, you agree?
I agree completely with Ben, and I actually tried this case on both sides. As a prosecutor, I tried this case, and as a defense attorney, I tried this case. So if I put on my prosecutor's hat, I would probably say that I would need to put together all of the instances where he completely disregarded human life. Was he familiar with that highway? Was he familiar with that curve? How often did he travel it? He was doing in excess of 100 miles an hour. So his complete disregard for what could possibly happen as a prosecutor is what I would try to do. Has he ever had prior speeding tickets? Does he know, other things, any prior accidents? As a defense attorney, you say, look, this is just an accident. He was cut off by somebody in a road rage incident. He was trying to get away from him. And as tragic as it is, it's an accident. And, he was speeding. And if you want to give him a reckless conduct, sure. But to charge him with, murder is overreaching and overstepping your bounds.
Ben, he doesn't have any priors, even a traffic ticket. And the allegation here is that there was another car who did flee, that knocked off his mirror, and there was some sort of, whether it was these two were combating together or there was road rage in there. But to your point earlier, the sympathy factor from a jury, I guess jury selection is going to be huge here, because he just looks like the right out of central casting, spoiled, snot-nosed kid that doesn't give a blank about anything but himself, and that's why he's going 100 miles an hour. You need someone who can relate to this kid, and I don't know how many of the 12 that end up getting seated will.
Ted, I think you're absolutely right. I think this proves the cliche, cases are won and lost in jury selection. I think that is absolutely here, because if I'm the prosecutor, which is more Mario's bailiwick than mine, I hit hard on the fact that this is a spoiled rich kid who shouldn't have been driving a BMW. And I actually think that the road rage hurts him. I think it shows an utter lack of concern for people other than himself, and indulgence of his own anger. And again, it fits the narrative of a spoiled rich kid who should get off with, who should be punished more than a mere reckless driving. I mean, the consequences were not only horrific, but they were eminently foreseeable, even to a young man.
Is this gross negligence, Mario? Because that at the end of the day, you're going to get to that point with the charges as they stand. They're significant. They've thrown the book at this kid. How do you get that over, if you're the state? How do you get over that bar of gross negligence to get a conviction?
The speed limit is 40. And he's doing over 100. So you could say, he's doing 50. Well, you're doing 10 miles over the speed limit. But he's going over 60 miles over a speed limit at a place that has a reputation for being a dangerous, dangerous curve, a place that, for all we know, he's driven many times before. He's well aware of the circumstances of the curve and what his speed could do. So that's how you're going to get to gross negligence. And I agree with Ben. I start every single jury selection with this line, that this is the most important part of the trial. You are the people that are going to make the decision here. And this is jury selection 101 right here.
Let's listen to Alan Jackson talking to the judge, basically pleading for the bail reduction. It's at $4 million here. He's floating $2 million. Here's Alan Jackson.
At $4 million, the bond company has frozen the collateral from the sale of the family home. The family had to sell their home in order to assist in the defense and try to raise money to build a defense, including experts, which we'll talk about in just a second. That collateral that came from the sale of that home has been frozen by the bond company, literally just on the issue of bail alone, because the bail is $4 million.
Ben, is the bail excessive here? And is that a valid argument by Mr. Jackson? It didn't work.
No and no. I agree with the judge that everybody's entitled to a defense, but it doesn't have to be a celebrity lawyer. He is certainly entitled to a very aggressive defense, but I don't think anybody's going to cry crocodile tears for the family, having bought this kid a high-powered automobile, which he clearly was not temperamentally or otherwise suited to driving. You have 4 families who will never see their children again. So, no, I think the judge was right.
Mario, you agree?
Absolutely agree. You have, this is a tragic case. He's lucky to be out at all. There are 4 young children that are no longer here. So, most of these cases, you're remanded. There is no bail. So the judge said he's lucky to be out. Alan Jackson, I love him. He's a great lawyer. But, he's trying to, free up money for, defense witnesses and experts and probably his own retainer. But, there's got to be another way around it. I mean, he's out. He's lucky to be out.
Mario, Ben, enjoy your Monday. Thanks for your time, as always. We'll get a break. A note, Alan Jackson is going to join Vinny tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, to talk about the case at hand here. Don't want to miss that. Up next, on opening statements.
We discussed about the backpack, and then I did ask, would it be okay if I checked this person? Yes.
And what did Dr. Parker say back to you?
She basically said, because he was on a certain plan, that they had already checked the backpack, nothing was in there. So she said, well, his mother will be coming to get him soon, so we can hold off and wait.
Dr. Ebony Parker, she has a criminal case coming up. We're going to talk about it with an attorney that represents many of the students from the Virginia Elementary School. Stay with us.
Mama tried. Now my daddy's crying because I'm in here.
You are the common denominator that led to JD and Big Doug shooting each other in the dark of night.
All right, help party, I'm dying.
Don't you have the blood of both these men on your hands?
I feel guilty for that.
You felt guilty because, frankly, you were guilty.
Interview with a Killer. New episode Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
just remember her facial expression. It was kind of like a look of shock.
Once you heard the shooting, what did you think that was?
I knew it was a gunshot. How many times was she shot? How many gunshots did you hear? I thought I had died.
Do you have any opinion on whether Dr. Parker could have foreseen JD's actions that day based on the information that she had?
I think it would be difficult for anyone to have foreseen that.
Well, it could be tipping the scales in the criminal trial for the first grader shoots teacher case in the case against Dr. Ebony Parker, the former assistant principal of a Virginia elementary school. Abby's Warner, the teacher who was shot by the 6-year-old, won her civil case. We watched that play out here on Court TV.
We, the jury, on the issues joined, find in favor of the plaintiff, Abigail Werner, and assess her damages at $10 million. The award interest beginning on June 1st, 2024.
That was $10 million. It wasn't her money. You know, I'm sure she was a little disappointed by the civil jury's verdict, but now the criminal proceedings are ahead, and she's charged with 8 counts of felony child neglect. What can we expect at the trial? How might witnesses here play a factor into the criminal courtroom and civil night and day? We have with us an attorney representing many of the students, 8 of them, and an adult. Let's bring her in here to discuss. Emily Brandon. Emily, good morning to you. First, what is your connection to the case? You're representing students, these 8 students. What's your role? What's the student's role and the adult that you represent's role here as we move forward towards this criminal proceeding?
Thank you, Ted. Yes, I represent 8 students who were witness to the shooting in the classrooms, and I represent an adult who was actually on school grounds that day to pick up a grandchild and ended up in the melee in the front office and actually did render some aid to Abby during the commotion before first responders arrived. And the basis of those lawsuits is related to the emotional pain and suffering, along with some physical injuries such as sleepless nights. We've had some kids that have experienced bedwetting, flashbacks. Most of them have been diagnosed with PTSD following this event. And so that is the nature of the cases that I have, which are civil in nature.
And is the assistant principal named in this, or is the district is the same scenario as we saw with Abby's lawsuit?
It is the same scenario as Abby's lawsuit. However, in my case, everyone is still in the case. So in Abby's case, right before trial, I think back in maybe July of 2025, there was a hearing, and the school board and Dr. Foster Newton were both dismissed from the case, leaving only Ebony to stand that trial that you just finished up last week. In my case, we haven't made it yet to those motions, and so every entity is still in my case as a defendant.
Gotcha, it makes sense. Let's talk about the criminal case that is ahead here. What are your thoughts? I mean, the civil, I get you'd sue her, but should this woman, she had a horrible day at work, she made every wrong decision you could argue, should she go to jail or prison for that? What's your take on the state going after her criminally?
Well, I think it's important for people to know that this was a very special proceeding that happened in order to bring these charges, which was a special grand jury. So in Newport News, they convened a confidential, I believe, special grand jury, and they heard evidence over a course of about 2 to 3 weeks, which is essentially like a trial, but with a lot less of the rules. And their job was to determine if they felt, based on that evidence that they had heard, was there enough to bring these charges? And they decided yes. And I don't know if you've read the report that they wrote, but it was scathing. I've never seen a special grand jury report with such detail and frankly emotion. And I was there during those proceedings because some of my clients gave testimony in that special grand jury proceeding. And it was really hard to hold back tears from most of the people in the room when you heard from these parents. And so it's a tough question to answer because we're all human and we certainly have sensitivity to and sympathy for an individual who's facing so much for this one event. But wow, obviously a group of her citizen peers felt that she failed these children and she failed everyone in the school that day. And that's why these charges are here. Your 8 students that you represent, and how many will be testifying? How do you prepare them? I mean, will you be there? Do they have to testify? What do you know now, and what are you getting ready for? Sure. I have at least 4 clients who will testify in the criminal trial. They are prepping with the prosecutor in that trial because, as you know, the prosecutor is the lead attorney in that case. He is bringing the criminal case against Ebony on behalf of our Commonwealth. And so I have a role in that in the sense that I'm helping my clients navigate, which is what is a very scary process, but I don't have a role as an attorney in that case. But I will be there standing beside them, especially those that are speaking. And they've been prepping over the past 2 weeks. Some of them won't testify, and it won't be any children. It will be parents and adult witnesses. Okay, great. There's no kid. I mean, the kids were so young. One would hope that they wouldn't have to endure that. Let's listen to some of the employees at the school that testified during the civil proceedings. You could feel the emotion from them. Take a listen.
What did you do after you heard the frantic call? I know, Mr. Rawls. It's okay.
They shot her. And I said, he did what? And she said, yeah.
Did you hear the shooting? Okay. Once you heard the shooting, what did you think that was?
I knew it was a gunshot.
And where did you think it had come from?
Abby's room.
A 6-year-old, it's so hard to get your head around. And that was part of Dr. Parker's defense, which I'm sure we'll see play out in the criminal proceedings as well. A 6-year-old we don't think should have a gun and not bring one to school and not be able to use it. There's so many things that you can't get your head around. And that's what you saw there, that emotion. Do you expect that to play out again in the criminal proceedings? Yeah, absolutely. That was Rawls that you just played. I was moved by his testimony as well because I know they're all just people that were at their regular job that day. And I know that these other teachers feel some level of personal responsibility. And I have to say, this is probably unpopular opinion, but the takeaway for me from the civil trial in the last 2 weeks, as I watched it in live, by the way, I really am grateful we had that opportunity for Court TV to stream it because my clients could watch it from home and they didn't feel like they had to sit in that courtroom with all of the news. So that was really something great for them to be able to watch from home. But one of the first questions that I had when I learned about these cases in January of 2023, everyone's focused on Abby, obviously, because she was very, very injured and it was a serious incident. But I just couldn't help but ask myself, why didn't anyone do anything? And what about these kids? Because for the longest time, we didn't hear about the children at all. It was just about Abby. And as I'm hearing about the testimony with what happened on the playground, there was a period of nearly an hour where 40 children were with a child who had a weapon, a gun, in his sweatshirt. Yeah. And she knew that. Yeah. And yeah, it's horrible. The whole case is horrible. We appreciate you, Emily, coming on. We're going to need a break. That's it for opening statements. We're out of time.
Are you fed up of hearing about friends losing?
They told you these stories didn't exist. We're here to prove they do. Real footage, real crimes. No filter. For more true crime from the South, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel at Southern Sin. You can also support more episodes by becoming a member of the Southern Sin channel, where you'll get early, exclusive access to crimes that mainstream media won't show you. Tune in for all new episodes every True Crime Tuesday at 9 p.m.